Australia, like any other country, has its own recognisable and distinguished images and icons that are immediately associated with Australia as a country. Past graphic designs and advertisement methods have influenced Australia as a nation, as well as what can be defined as the Australian image and culture today. The Australian nation is created by visual images and are now refined by our now established symbols. Graphic forms of our nation exist in our logos, country symbolism, and influences of our native flora and fauna. It is the media that has and continues to create the idea and sense of nationhood within Australia. It was the advertisements and graphic designs of the 1920s to 1950s that initially commenced the development of the Australian image. Associations and organisations such as the Australian National Travel Association, or the ANTA, produced travel posters almost immediately after the war and the Great Depression, advertising Australia for the young, progressive and strong country that it was. The ANTA became very popular at this time. Through their graphic designs and their travel posters, they highlighted Australia to be the #1 travel destination for tourists. Their travel posters also illustrated the characteristics of what was to be considered as the Australian culture and image at this time. The Spirit Progress advertisement was printed in a promotional booklet in 1937 to mark 150 years of European settlement in Australia. This advertisement has the viewer looking up at the first non-stop train journey in Australia at the time, connecting Melbourne to the New South Wales border, glorifying and worshipping this wonder train for something to envy about Australia, further highlighting its progression as a country. This advertisement emphasises a sense of pride and accomplishment out of the Great Depression and that Australia was young and stronger than ever, urging tourists to visit and possibly settle within Australia. The Australian National Travel Association was established in 1928. Its sole purpose was to promote, advertise and market Australia as a prime location for travel, specifically to the Americans and British. To communicate its message to a world that knew very little of Australia, the ANTA turned to the production of striking imagery and the use of simple Aussie slogans to attract their audience. The ANTA became very heavily involved in the commission of travel posters. This was partly due to advances in technology and the strong push to modernise the way of living. The ANTA unintentionally set trends of promotional graphics of the European settlement in Australia. These promotional graphics spread myths of terra nullius, that this was an empty land, a land for the taking. Percival Albert Trump, born May 30, 1902 and died July 17, 1964 in Heidelberg, Melbourne, was a well-known commercial artist and is admired for his works in the ANTA travel posters, magazines and publications. Percy attended Sebastopol Primary School before becoming one of the earliest students at the Ballarat School of Mines Junior Technical School, where he received his certificate in 1917. He undertook the Ballarat Technical Art School Industrial course in 1916, where he became first familiar with the functions of magazines and advertisement influences. Trump's most successful works features within the pages of the ANTA travel posters and magazines. His works depicting historical Australian events such as Captain Cook's Landing in 1770. Trump's entries to poster competitions in London granted him international recognition and further expanded his work to Canada. In celebration and recognition of Melbourne's first skyscraper, the Manchester Unity Building, Trump published a travel poster that depicted this new modernised piece of architecture, entitled Melbourne, Seventh City of Empire. Designed by architect Marcus Barlow in an Art Deco Gothic style, it was built at high speed in 1930 to 1932 and provided much-needed employment during the Great Depression. Being Melbourne's largest building at the time, it was 12 stories high and contained the city's first collection of escalators. This historical event highlights the city's modernity at the time. Another example of Trump's recognised works is his illustration and designs of travel poster entitled Australia Bondi Beach, published by the ANTA in 1929. This captures a scene of busy Bondi Beach, the car park crowded with cars bumper to bumper, the sand filled with beach towels and large umbrellas, and the scene of crystal clear water on soft, exciting waves. Although the beach is not specifically named in the poster, nor is the perspective correct, this beach is unmistakable. This iconic image is considered to be a national treasure and is the embodiment of the national culture in the interwar years. In our current setting, Australia has been painted with a different kind of stroke. Our Tourism Australia travel campaign, The Philosophy, invites the world down under to experience a unique Australian way of life. This campaign is part of a deliberate move to elevate the strengths of Australia's people, personality, and way of life. This campaign advertises Australian culture and pays its respects to the original custodians of this land, the Australian Aboriginal people. This differs from the empty land message delivered by the ANTA travel posters of the 1920s to 1950s of terra nullius. The Philosophy campaign has shifted its advertising methods to a more contemporary and digital basis, relying more on digital technologies and social media platforms to advertise a 21st century image of Australia. These images and posters show Australia as a multicultural society with an exception and appreciation for our native flora and fauna. This contrasts in comparison to the ANTA travel posters in 1920s to 1950s that promoted a youthful, healthy, white Australia and failed to acknowledge the original custodians of these lands, the Aboriginal people. Recent promotional Tourism Australia advertisements take the form of pop-up images on social medias, short photographs and montages on social media, and the movement of images on YouTube videos and blogs. The Philosophy campaign motto of "If I go to your house and want to come back, it's because I enjoy your company, not your furniture" by Paul Hogan tells its audiences that this campaign celebrates our multicultural society and pays its respects to our true finders of this land. This contrasts the values and beliefs of the 1920s to 1950s, where Australia was a solely white nation founded by the British. Australia's nationhood has been created by humans. Places have been defined through media advertising, and the Australian image have been shifted, shaped, and moulded numerous times. Our overall goals and values and ethics change each day, person to person. The media's increasing influence on society and how the world sees Australia has been crafted and is continued to be crafted in the changing situations that affect Australia and the world. Initially viewing Australia as an empty land founded by the British, to now having expectations and the acknowledgement that this land was invaded. The media and its advertising methods has and continues to be delivered in many different ways depending on the sway of society. From following the sway and trends of society in the 1920s to 50s, travel posters produced by the ANTA were plastered onto cafe walls and in magazines, methods strongly driven by the modernised way of living. Moving to more imagery, short YouTube videos, advert pop-ups on social media, and postings by the Philosophy campaign, strongly driven by the changes out of modernism and into the 21st century. Advances in technologies will continuously change the way the media is delivered to us, and thereby continuously altering the Australian image.